Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Well, ahoy hoy, and welcome to episode 121 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Steve Pander.
And yes, we are both still alive. Now, you may have thought, are they ever going to do a post-game podcast again? Well, we're here.
Yeah, I was basically took some time off because I couldn't take the sexual harassment off the air from Michael, and so we decided to break up for a bit. And I think the time apart did well.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a talk about it. I know not to cross the line now.
Yeah.
But I do feel, though, that the way that we work together, it's kind of like the GOP-Republican debate. Obviously, I'm Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who you'd want to be. Bobby Jindal, maybe?
Oh, that's kind of crossing the line again.
Okay.
but let's get to the game that everybody wants us to hear about, us talk about.
The USL game against Seattle.
Well, that was good too.
Yeah, we'll
talk
come
about
to that later.
But obviously, the big game at BC Place, 4-0 over RSL. It was a trap game, like we'll hear people say.
I think we should call them FSL though, because that was not the real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I think that was more just a fake Salt Lake out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to use a different F word.
But I think that possibly was Jeff Cassar when he was talking to the referee after 30 minutes.
Yeah, the overall fantastic game. They didn't fall into that trap from 2 years ago when they lost to a team that was similar to this. 1-0. They got that soft penalty call at the beginning. I've seen worse that not got called.
Really, if that was called against us, I would be livid.
Yeah, so I have no problem with RSL saying it, although I guarantee you that there will be people out there who say it was a proper call, but I think it was very soft.
Well, we didn't really get much of a replay of it either, because the TVs in the press box weren't showing the game at that point. They were still showing what had happened in the CFL game.
Yes, it was still the replay, and despite TSN having 5 channels, they weren't able to get one of the channels switched over to Vancouver. So
very, very disappointing. So, I mean, from my first glance and the very quick flash that I saw of it, I don't think it was a penalty, but you take them.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, Chris Penso, referee of the year as far as I'm concerned, he gave Vancouver everything tonight, every little thing.
Well, apparently the RSL commentators were mentioning that he doesn't give penalties that often. And he's happened to this one, he just gave right off the bat. So that was an interesting thing about his stats. I think I saw in the highlights that they mentioned that he gives it out of 75 games he's given 25 penalties, which is 1 out of every 3 games, so it's not too bad. But this one definitely he was pointing to a spot right away.
Yeah, and then I mean they got that early lead 7 minutes in, kind of made hard work of it for the rest of the half. It's tricky. Like you say, you talked about that game in 2013. Carroll had referred to it in the build-up to the game, and he said after the game when I asked him tonight that it still irks him, and it really, really bothers him. So he made the players aware of that, and he reiterated that to them at half-time. It was one-way traffic. You can't really consider that RSL did anything to threaten Vancouver.
They had chances, but there was nothing that really bothered Ousted too much. I think it was probably his easiest game of the year.
Robbo also said after the game that the team has played better and lost than like a 4-goal display tonight, which was phenomenal. But they got that second goal 5 minutes before half time.
The Gambian connection.
Oh, the goal machine! I would never thought of the Gambian connection.
Yeah, I think they were just tired of the Latinos getting all the problems. they decided to set up, work together and get up a goal.
What can we refer to Manny and Ka? Is that Gambian Express, Gambian Gambit?
Yeah, something like that.
I know, we'll throw that out there. If you're listening, you can think of a name for the link-up play between Manny and Ka. Let us know. But
Gambian Nightmare.
his finish was a nightmare. That was a horror. That was a centre back's finish.
Yeah.
Atenella's going to watch that and think, oh, I'd like that back.
Yeah.
But they all count. 3 goals in 2 games. Pamadou Ka, goal machine. Get that tattooed.
And then the first half, obviously, I think it was great that they got that goal. The second half, they came out and they actually started playing better in the second half, and they started pouring it on. Again, very few chances for RSL, and then basically the second half belonged to the little bug.
Oh, buzzing about, being a pest, everything that you want from a bug. He was outstanding. Carroll said after the game that he was his man of the match, and it's hard to dispute that. When Teixeira first joined the team, you knew he had something special. I aired concerns in a previous podcast. I really wasn't 100% sure how well he would settle in MLS with it being a physical league. But you've seen guys like Plata that's small and handles the physicality of it. Giovinco at Toronto, small guy, thriving. And like Teixeira, in the last 4 to 6 weeks, he's really found his stride. He looks outstanding. I would even go as far to say the best addition that Carroll has made to the squad this year, more than Rivero, more than goal machine Ka. But I do think he has been the best addition. And when you think that we've scored 10 goals now in 3 games, and when you look at the strikers, Rivero, Matix when he comes on, they're not really contributing to that. The goals are getting spread about.
Rivero got the penalties, but nothing from open play.
But like Rivero's frustrated. You can see it. Like when Teixeira got the one that Harvey sent in that Rivero just missed getting his foot on, he kind of had a look on his face like, oh, that could have been mine. But he was obviously happy as well.
We also knocked, into the face of Montano, so it wasn't celebratory too much because he was concerned about him.
But that he
wanted that one.
Yeah, but you also know that he's a goal scorer and he's going to find his stride again.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the great thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're scoring all these goals just now. We're knocking the ball about fantastically. And Rivero's not scoring, Pedro's not starting, and Rosales is injured. This is a very exciting time to be a Whitecaps fan.
Yeah, and like you said, Teixeira, that was a fantastic finish by him at the far post.
Beautiful outside.
And that's the one thing we've mentioned before in the past, that nobody ever made that run to the far post.
Yeah.
And if the person in the middle missed the ball, it would go all the way to the sideline.
Robbo talked like how he felt like Teixeira had made 30 to 40 yards up just to get to that, and he said that's what they want.
Yeah.
That's what he needs to see. And he loved the desire from the players that they didn't give up and they kept pushing for the goal. And I mean, 4-0 could easily have been 6, 7, 8.
Well, and the fourth goal was Teixeira as well, and that was probably the best goal of the night. Great strike from distance, and it was great to see because that was one thing that was going into the season. We weren't sure like who was going to hit the ball from distance because in the box things get muddled up. You can't always finish from there, so it's always good to have when you have space outside the box and you're able to strike it in. Laba tried again to get it. He's getting a little bit more confidence getting the shot on after that one goal. So it's great to see, and I think this team is full of confidence right now.
Yeah, I thought Harvey was really wanting to go tonight as well.
Harvey was fantastic tonight. Yeah. He was pushing up constantly. I think he was pushing up more than Beitashour, but I think Beitashour had a strong game. It might have been
and folk will know I've been really hard on Beitashour, but I thought he's been good the last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah.
When you've only let 1 goal in, and it really should be 3 clean sheets in a row now.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 straight clean sheets. You can't pick fault really with the defence at all. But when we'll go into some individual players and the performances of the last few weeks in the second section. But yeah, I mean, great strike from Teixeira, 4-0. Let's hear a little bit now from both head coaches after the game. So we'll just hear a little bit from Kyle Robinson because obviously you can find his full audio on the Whitecaps site. And as always, I sent Steve into the away locker room because we didn't really know what kind of mood Jeff Cassar was going to be in.
Well, I think he had a long time to calm down because he was sent off early. We'll mention that in a second here. Yeah. And he'll talk about what happened when he was sent off.
So let's hear from Robbo and Jeff Cassar. 4 goals, clean sheet. Must be happy with the night's work.
Yeah. I think we didn't play very well in the first half, but we got our noses in front from a penalty. I said to them at half time they need to tidy up a few things. I thought the second half we were a lot better. Obviously got 2 goals, disappointed maybe not to get 1 or 2 more, but It was a trap game for us. It was difficult. Jeff decided to rotate his lineup and leave a couple of his bigger players at home based upon the game on Wednesday, which every team in this league does. As a manager, you get criticised when you do it if it doesn't work, and apparently you get called a genius if it does work. So it was a trap game for us, but we took care of business today.
You talked about it heading into the game. 2013, they brought the understrength team, got the win here. Did you use that as motivation?
I did. It still irks me now, where Martin was in charge here. They come and they changed the total lineup, and they got the noses in front from Devon Sandoval, I believe, a header at that time, and couldn't get back into the game, and things like that wind me up. So yeah, it did. It was passed across to them prior to the game, and especially at half time, because the third goal was always going to be the big goal.
How much growth have you seen in your younger players the last 2 or 3 weeks with this run of results and all the goals going in? Do you see a difference in their confidence or just how they're handling themselves?
Well, confidence is a big thing in football, and not just in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the guys who've been with us for 18 months, the guys who've been with us for just 6 months, it's they're proving day in day out what it takes to be professionals, and they're young players. So it's easy to criticise them when they don't play well or they don't do well, because everyone just sees them on a Saturday or Wednesday night. I see them on a daily basis, and I keep drumming the same beats. Really, they're getting better, and that's all I can ask of them. They're developing as players, they're developing as people. Sometimes because you're young, you make a lot more mistakes than you do if you're senior players. But I tell you what, my group has got some character in there. It really has. And I keep challenging them, and they keep answering.
Your thoughts on being ejected?
Totally uncalled for. I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I was just trying to protect my players who had been getting kicked. He gave a soft PK, just a super soft PK that I disagreed with, but that wasn't when we were in. He came up to me and said, "Next thing you say, you're getting kicked out."
What did you say the next?
I said three fouls. That's it. Yeah, totally uncalled for.
From what? So how would you assess your team's play?
It's a tough night. It was a tough night for everyone in tough circumstances against a first place team. But I thought there was a period of time in the first half that we settled in a little bit and played some good soccer. But the second goal was really the one that put our heads down a little bit, and credit to Vancouver. They're a very dangerous team going forward.
Do you feel that questionable PK call that basically threw your tactics out the window, especially with a young team?
I just think, with the group that we had on the field, it's a tough thing. We start off the game feeling good about ourselves, and then really quickly it's something that you have to rebound really quick from. And credit to the guys for doing that, for rebounding, but it was a tough night.
Do you think that this loss is a result of all the traveling that you guys did in the last 7 days?
It didn't help. Not going to blame it on the travel. Not going to blame it on anything. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and take responsibilities. But we had a very tough game in D.C., tough game in Guatemala, and then to have a third one in quick succession was not going to be easy no matter what. But if we can turn around and get a result against Kansas City in the Open Cup semis, we got an opportunity to be hosting a final in our building, and that's where we put our focus on.
Did you draw anything on the result from a couple of years ago when you guys had a young team again and you were able to pull out 3 points? Did you kind of try to inspire the team that way?
No, I liked where we were at going into this game. I felt really confident with this group. But again, that early goal really, sets the tone for the rest of the game. And it could have been a different game if we don't give up the goal in the 43rd minute.
So that was Jeff Cassar. As you could tell, he was very puzzled about why he was sent off. He said he didn't drop any F-bombs.
It looked to me that after he got sent off, the referee told him to go, and then just Cassar went, "No, you go off."
Yeah, like a little kid.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And then he had a little word with Robbo, which I meant to ask him actually if he would say what he said, but he probably wouldn't, because we never talked about that aspect of it. But I mean, it was a tough loss. They're having a bad season, but from the Whitecaps' point of view, 13 points clear now. you have to think 42 points in the bag. It's going to be a monumental collapse if the Whitecaps don't make the playoffs now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's going to basically they're I'm not going to say they're in the driver's seat because anything can happen, but I think it would be a monumental collapse if they didn't host the game at this point.
Yeah, anything outside the top 4 now is a major disappointment
because of the point they're at right now. We talked about the coaches there. Robinson was very happy with most of the players. The one player he wasn't happy with at halftime was Gershon Kofi.
Yeah.
He mentioned that too. That in one of the questions that he was, if you asked about Gershon Kofi and at halftime, it would have been a lot of expletives.
Yeah,
in
he
it.
went beep beep beep.
Yeah, but the second half
that was his Roadrunner impression. I wasn't sure.
The second half he was very happy with Gershon. So. He said that he was the best player on the field. So
one of the best. He actually said
Teixeira was the best overall. Yeah.
But, I mean, we've talked about Gershon before. It's so frustrating that he's just not consistent. But, good second half from him. It's hard to find fault, really, with any of the players today. Nico linked up well, but he could really do with getting a goal, I think, just to help the confidence. But what Robbo said after the game was that jersey is Nico's to lose now, that Pedro has to earn it back. And Pedro does have to earn his spot back, and he's going to have a good chance with the game on Wednesday, which we'll come to shortly. I mean, what other players for you stood out tonight? Iceland didn't have a lot to do, clean sheet in the defence, but who stood out for you, Steve?
I thought it's hard to say one person stand out because they were all very evenly stood out.
Since we haven't done a podcast for a while, let's look back at the last couple of games. 3-1 win over San Jose, 3-0 trouncing, I always like to use the word trouncing when I refer to this, down in Seattle, and 4-0 rout, let's go with that, tonight against RSL. Over those games, who's really kind of risen to the occasion for you? Because it's been a pretty set, stable lineup.
I think one of the biggest reasons is the wide play. And I think you got to throw it to guys like Kakuta, Christian, like you said, Mauro Rosales before he got hurt, and even the fullbacks. I think all those guys are spreading the ball around, getting the ball wide, and that's giving more space in the middle. And I think that's made a big factor because teams cannot get tied up in the middle. They have to spread out across the width of the field, and that's causing more gaps for everybody else. I think that play is improving, has really helped out the Whitecaps overall.
Yeah, I mean, that I was saying on Twitter earlier this week that, to me, Vancouver's back 7 is probably amongst the strongest, if not the strongest, in all of MLS.
Yeah.
Ousted, goalkeeper of the year candidate. The back 4 of Harvey and Beitashour as the fullbacks.
They've improved now. They've definitely
Boston
improved,
and whoever you put in there.
Yeah.
Because Ka, Parker, Dean have all looked fantastic when they've played in it beside in the centre back role. And then Teibert and
Laba
and Kofi.
That combination,
Any two of those, it's like you pick those 7 positions, and I think we're so strong. And as you say, where we've been let down in the past, but what has done so well in the last few weeks is those 3 just behind the striker, the 3 attacking positions, the 2 wingers and the number 10. Since Nico has come in, it's looked so much more lively, and it makes sense because you've got the Uruguayan connection, and Teixeira, Rivero and Mosquera, they hang about together off the pitch. They've got that understanding. Teixeira referred to it tonight that he likes playing with the Latino players because it's just there's a bit of a better understanding there.
It's a natural understanding.
Yeah.
Basically.
Manny has been good. Against Seattle, though, I thought he was marked out of the game, and you expect that.
But he had his moments in that game.
He had his moments tonight as well, where he looks electric when he goes on a run, and he's stopped being so selfish. Yeah. But for me, he's the expendable guy just now, that when Mauro gets fit, you put Mauro back in on the right, you put Teixeira in on the left, and you keep Manny on the bench for a bit.
But I personally don't think at this point you can do that. I would say Mauro is like Pedro. They have to get their spot back at this point.
Well, I don't know. I think he did earn it with his play before he got that injury. He was outstanding, especially in the number 10 role. He was
maybe he
really
takes over for Nico then,
possibly.
And Manny and Teixeira stay where they are. So it all depends. But it's great problem to have, honestly.
Yeah, but talking of that, all the talk during the week, of course, was would the Whitecaps add another player in the transfer window?
Yeah.
And as we know, they did. They added a right back.
Yes.
Not the position a lot of folk would have instantly said. There was a need there because Samson clearly was not up to be an MLS backup right back.
No.
I mean, I think we can honestly say that.
Yeah, and
Parker's looked good when he's come in, but you have to think Carroll has one eye on Parker possibly being the starting centre-back by the end of the year.
No, it's true, yeah, because the thing is he's been so valuable at centre-back, they really don't have time to put him at right back at this point, especially with all these games. So, and Robinson talked about it post-game that they need to work out the visa issues, and they're hoping to get him as soon as possible.
Yeah, but I mean...
Ethan honestly has not looked good. When he's had very slim moments, but in the USL especially, they put him at left back now because I think they've really at this point are just trying to get him in somewhere. But
the rumours during the week where the Robbo was trying to line up a loan deal. We believe actually back in South Africa is kind of the latest news that we'd heard, that he was trying to line up a loan deal for Samson just to get him some playing minutes like he's done with Hurtado in Norway, and also to free up this international spot. Now, I was hoping to ask this and I didn't get a chance. We don't have an international spot, so unless we've done a trade or this loan is in the works, we can't add Smith until we get another international spot from allocation money from someone or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jordan Simpth, as I'm going to call him, because we've got Boston, he's going to come in. He looks good backup for Beitashour. Beitashour's contract is up at the end of the season.
Yeah.
As I've said, I don't feel he's value for the money that he's getting. He will be somebody that will want to get or would be picked up by another team because he has seemed to have worth. So Smith can be the real deal, and you've got like backup with Parker or whoever else you get. You could see Beitashour moving on.
Yeah, Smith, as we all always do, go to YouTube first. He's looked good and scored quite a few goals from distance. So he definitely has the ability to strike the ball. They haven't been shown too many highlights of him running up and down, but they say he's an attacking fullback. And
the interesting thing though is like Carroll had him lined up to come in January.
Yeah.
And Carroll's told us before that he has got a number of players already lined up to come into January.
Yeah.
So he was one of them.
He's basically the Waston for last year.
Because he was going to come in as
January,
well. They got a chance to pull the trigger early in that. Now, the fact that Carroll's talking about that he has these players lined up, it brings us back to the depth. And we saw on Wednesday night, it was all changed, different starting 11 against Seattle in the CONCACAF Champions League. We've waited so long to have a Champions League game, and then it was a big disappointment. That first half, I mean, it was a snooze fest, and we won't name names, but somebody did nod off in the press box.
I have to admit that it was me.
I wasn't going to say that.
But I don't think anybody can blame me. Plus, I only had like about 3 hours sleep going into the game. So
it was a hard half to watch.
The person beside me too, not you, but somebody else, was dozing off as well at the same time. She said that she wanted to go home at halftime. So like I wasn't the only one in the press box that was like that.
It was tough, and they got.
Plus, I had no internet connection as well, so I was bored by that.
I know. At least I was amusing myself with turning Seattle players into food.
Exactly. I couldn't follow in with that fun, so I was really bored out there.
That was the most fun I've had at a game for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, talking the depth, you know that Carroll's going to bring these guys in, and he said after the game on Wednesday that the performance gave him a few answers that he had for some players. Obviously, Hurtado was one. He's shipped out the next day to Norway. Eric the Viking, now we're going to refer to him.
He got a tribute from Kakuta Mane, though.
Yes. I tweeted this out, but this was Steve's gag. He didn't want to tweet it. I tweeted it, so we'll give
I didn't want to tweet it. I just didn't have time. I was doing something else.
When the Whitecaps had that 3 on goalkeeper break, which the RSL Twitter feed described it as a jailbreak, which I liked. You have to score from a 3 on a goalkeeper break, but Kakuta Mane, heavy touch, which you said, Steve, was
a tribute to Eric Hurtado, obviously.
Yes, it's like, it's good mate Eric. It's like, goodbye Eric, I'm just going to have a heavy foot just like you did. That was dreadful.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hurtado shipped out. Samson, another one that he obviously has no answers in. Diego Rodriguez, we have to talk about D-Roll.
Yeah, I personally think that if they could, essentially, I think if they could, they would cancel his loan and send him back. But I don't think.
I mean, Carroll talked that his confidence had kind of gone, which is why he was giving him the run in the USL.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and he had that great tackle.
Yes.
Just after we scored the block to keep the lead. But man, that was woeful marking.
Yeah. No, he was basically. I think he was trying to play the offside trap, but you don't play an offside trap when you're that close to the goal.
No.
You got to mark your guy.
You have to be 100% confident that's going to come off. And it didn't.
And the thing is about him is remember the way back when in the Orlando game, he actually had a good game there.
I liked him. I liked him before he got injured. I liked what I saw in pre-season.
I had him as a starter next to Austin But the
I
thing
think
is,
Carr just had a phenomenal pre-season tournament in Portland. And
but
won the spot.
the funny thing is he had that great game against Orlando, I thought, and then he got suspended for the touchy
ball grab, yeah.
touchy feely, and then basically got an injury right after that in training. So
Yeah.
that basically he wasn't able to build off that game. So it's difficult to see, but because he's a lone player. They probably won't extend it because look at last year. Sebastian Fernandez had a great season.
They wanted to keep him,
but you're not going to do that because if you do a transfer for him, that's going to make him a DP, and that's not worth it at that point.
No, and actually that worked out great because I think with Fernandez not staying, it let us bring in like Rivero, Teixeira, and those guys. So I mean that was good. There was no striker added. That's what everyone was wanting to know. That's what our good friend Har asked Robbo every single day at training. If you watch the audio on Friday, Carl makes a little dig at her for that. But there was no striker added yet. We can still add a free agent. I believe that there was a couple of deals. There was a couple of guys in Europe that they were looking at, but they weren't able to get the deal done, at least not yet. There was rumours going around as well that the Chilean guy Vargas, they were looking to take him in on loan, but apparently the rumour again, nothing confirmed, was he didn't offer enough money to get that done. So they have been looking. It's tough now that they've let Hurtado go because if they don't add a striker now, Rivera's out of form, ish.
But he's helping.
But he's doing great in other ways apart from scoring.
I think
we don't need him scoring at the moment, so it's not a big thing.
I think somebody tweeted out the best non-scoring striker in the league
and
at this point.
And it's like, I'll take that because his work rate's fantastic. But let's just say that drops as well, or his confidence goes, or he gets an injury. We are kind of struggling in that position. You've got Matix, hit and miss, great with Jamaica. Had a great quote after the game on Wednesday when he said something along the lines of, on another day against another team, I would take those chances. And someone replied to me going, could you possibly let us know what day and what team, just so we know what game we can play him in?
Yeah.
So that was fantastic.
You got Ernie.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't know. I think Ernie's done more interview minutes than he's actually played minutes in MLS or USL this year. Everyone wants to talk to him because he's a great guy to talk to, which you can hear in episode 120 if you haven't. So yeah, do you think we have to add another piece just now? Because there is still a chance.
If it's a striker worth it, and obviously he has to be a free agent, and they could get him on a short-term contract at the end of the season, maybe then do it. But don't invest in somebody long-term if it's going to cost you money or cap space.
Well, Carl's always said he's only going to bring in a guy not for the short term. He said he's never going to do that.
Yeah, but how many free agents are out there that are going to be worth the
well, there could be a lot of guys not picked up in Europe. That's the thing. But we've kind of seen how they don't often work out. Even a guy that I'm quite high on, Sean Maloney, hasn't exactly lit it up with Chicago and has had interest from Hull City to possibly go back. So I mean, the guys come in from overseas and they don't always do it well.
I think they think it's going to be an easy run, and they find out it's not as easy because there's a lot of, while there's not very much technical ability, there's a lot of athleticism, and so they have to work out.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Drogba does because everyone says fantastic acquisition for Montreal. I'm not so sure.
And he looks like some reports are saying that he's going to make his debut on August 22nd.
So doesn't play in that first leg of the Canadian Championship.
So if he makes his debut on the 22nd, you don't really expect him to play 2 straight games. Travel all the way back.
Not on turf probably as well. No. So we'll probably not see him here. He probably won't play that game.
Maybe he comes on as a sub or something like that.
But that brings us nicely to Wednesday's Canadian Championship. Can we do it? Can we break the curse? So Voyageurs Cup action on Wednesday. The team are travelling to Montreal. Then they're flying straight from Montreal to Kansas City on the Thursday. Interesting to see what lineup they put out. Robbo said just before this month started, 8 games, he's already got his 8 lineups drawn up. But could there possibly be some changes there? That's actually something I asked him at the press conference after the game tonight. So before we talk anymore, let's just hear what Robbo says from that.
You had talked heading into this month that you had your 8 lineups panned out.
Yeah.
Apart from Kendall, has anything happened that's changed you from what you want to do?
Well, I don't tell you everything. I tell you a lot of things, which is, a young coach sometimes does, and older coaches don't tell you a lot of things. But what I don't tell you is, it's sometimes based on results as well. And I had a plan A and a plan B. A plan A was if we got the victory today, then that will kick into effect on Wednesday. And plan B was if we didn't get the result. So I'll go to plan A.
So Robo indicating there it's going to be a young team, but a plan A, and I think, it's never been confirmed, but I think what we're going to see is not what we saw on Wednesday, which is a complete change from the starting lineup. I think you're going to see a mix of experienced first-teamers and the young guys coming in, and Kendall Waston, suspended now for the Kansas City game, Robo has said he will start on Wednesday.
Yeah, so there's one guaranteed starter we know of.
Tanagi, you have to think, is going to get the start and goal. I'm okay with that. And I think our back four is going to now be Samson, Waston, Parker, Dean.
Yeah. Or if they want to, there is an option. If they feel confident with Diego Rodriguez, they could put him in and move Parker to the right side, take Samson out of the lineup too. So it's all. I think it's depending on it.
Yeah, it's like
whether
what
it's
player do they
Rodriguez
have
or
the
Samson.
most? Yeah. What player does they have the most thing with?
Remember, Robo said his things that it was all depending on this result.
Yeah,
so
I think plan A was if they won tonight and had that big gap, then they could afford to have a mix against Kansas City.
But they didn't
which they
expect
may not win in Kansas City anyway, even if they go there with their first teamers.
But they didn't expect Waston to be suspended. Obviously, they were looking at that, so that could change everything. There. I think the holding mids, I think we saw Lava come off in the 67th minute. I think he could start with Teibert.
Yeah, I have a
because Flores wasn't that great against Sounders.
No, I've been really disappointed in Florence. Florence has a machine. Flores has a machine as well. Or that's what we could call the partnership of Flores and Teibert.
Yeah,
Flores and the machine.
That's not bad if that ever happens again.
Yeah. But I don't think it will. No. But no, Flores, when he came on against Seattle and made his debut, you were like, wow, this kid is like amazing and attacking and great. But I think he's kind of got gradually worse every time we've seen him.
Yeah, he especially after that U20 Honduras burnout at the World Cup, he hasn't really responded well to that at all.
But I think Laba Teibert is what we could see. Up front, you have to think it's going to be Matix.
Maddox probably, and who's going to play behind him?
Morales
is obviously one of them.
I think Morales will get the number 10.
Yeah. Or the wingers. Hurtado's gone, obviously.
Yeah, Froze should start. And then the other one is really up for grabs now that Hurtado's gone. I'm wondering, could we maybe see Bustos?
And speaking of that, he had a great performance on Saturday in Seattle. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but he is definitely
another 2 goals. That's his 6th of the season with the USL team, and he's missed a big chunk.
Yeah, so he's really impressed. Maybe they go with Pedro because Bustos, obviously, as most Canadian fans know, he's half Chilean. So some people don't want to know that, but maybe he has that little chemistry with Pedro, and they can work together and behind Maddox.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the wingers, it's like, who else could you really have there?
Another guy who came off the bench against Seattle in midweek was Adekugbe.
And did play in the wing.
Yeah, and so maybe he's an option or something like that.
And he'd maybe be a slightly better option anyway than Bustos, because Bustos works better in the middle, I feel.
Maybe they go Christian Dean and play him up, because...
maybe they go 3-5-2, as I keep pushing for.
So maybe
this would be a game to do it. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah, and they also probably catch Montreal completely off guard then if they did that. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of lineup they roll out.
But heading into the game, it's like we do seem that we are cursed. But now that the Whitecaps have their first taste of the Champions League, even though you can debate how seriously they took it and then how successful that was on Wednesday. They want to win some silverware and lift their first ever Voyageurs Cup, qualify for next year's Champions League for the first time via the Canadian Championship.
Yeah.
How do you see it going? Montreal lost today against DC, had a strong team out there. Are they going to think that the Whitecaps are going to play a team like they did against Seattle. Fringe guys, and just put their own fringe guys out there?
Yeah, maybe they might think that, and they do the same thing. It'd be interesting to see, because remember Montreal, you're talking about Vancouver having a taste for Champions League. Montreal had a very big taste of Champions League because they made it all the way to the final.
They're going to want it again.
So they want it again. They don't want to miss out on next year's run or whatever. So they're going to be interested too to see what they have. Maybe the lineup they probably puts out will be similar to Seattle, so they think they can take advantage of that by putting their younger players out at home. Or maybe they just put a strong lineup again and just go for it. So it'll be interesting to see what Kloppus does there with his lineup.
For me, the Whitecaps, I'm happy with a draw, even a 1-goal defeat. But if there is a defeat or either way, the Whitecaps I feel need to get that away goal.
Yeah.
Because Montreal's run in this year's Champions League or last season's Champions League, they did so well with grabbing that away goal that set them up comfortably in ties. And I can see them coming here and grabbing an away goal. So I do feel the Whitecaps need to get an away goal on Wednesday night.
I personally hope they go for the win. And
I do as well.
And I hope they knock 3, like the game of a few years ago when there was an MLS play where they knocked in 3 or 4. I think it was 3 maybe against.
Well, it's like they score at ease these days from everywhere. So let's hope so. Now we talked about a lot the heartache and stuff. One guy that's been through that for years with the Whitecaps in this competition.
And he's still young though.
Yeah, I know, that's this crazy thing, is Russell Teibert. So there's going to be a lot of Canadians see the field for the Whitecaps on Wednesday. So let's hear from 2 of them now. We're going to hear first from Russell Teibert, then we're going to hear from Sam Adekugbe.
In a time when hats were hats, I had no Canadian flag, just a sign of Dave and Roger, too scared to purchase larger. But now I walk through the Clyde Valley, in the shadow of fiery Jack, power, fear no evil, wrapped in the Canadian flag.
Russell, obviously Wednesday, big game coming up, first leg of the Canadian Championship. Another chance to win it after so many failed opportunities. What are your guys' thoughts going into this?
So it's a new year, new opportunity. Team's on a high right now. Team's confident. We're dangerous, and we need to take in the things we've done in the season into the Canadian Championship, and I think we'll come out victorious.
How is it different this year? Obviously, you're before it was like you win the semifinals, you go straight into the finals. Now you've had a kind of an opportunity to build towards the final. How is that helpful, or is it a deterrent?
Yeah. No matter what, it's a final, and when you're in a final, it doesn't matter what you've done up to that point. You have to take care of the finals, and we've had some struggles with this tournament years in the past, but I think we're confident going in this year.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It's a championship game. I mean, even playing Edmonton, it's a big game, and you still need to do well and get a result in order to go to the final. So I don't think we see any different. I mean, all 5 teams, do want to win and do want to play in the Champions League. So I think it's just a matter for if people who don't think we are playing our first team, we're still playing professional players. We still want our players to perform, and if it's not in the the Amway Championship, then it's in the MLS games. But we don't see any different. I mean, it's a big game. Edmonton was a big game. This is a big game too. So it's just a matter about all of us performing.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
So a couple of young Canadians there, Russell Teibert and Sam Adekugbe, talking about Wednesday's Voyageurs Cup clash. Quick prediction from you, Steve. How do you see that going, and how do you see next Saturday's game against Kansas City going?
I'll say 1-1 draw against Montreal, and then I'll say a defeat versus Kansas City, maybe 2-1.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe 2-0 defeat to Kansas City. I don't see us getting anything out of that. I'm kind of thinking, though, that Robbo's maybe... not obviously, you go into a game expecting to win, but I think he's maybe got at the back of his mind that's going to be a tough place to go and get a win. He'll maybe play for the draw next week. And I think that they'll get a 1-goal defeat midweek as well, 2-1. But if they can get a draw or a win or an away goal, perfect.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up this episode of the podcast, let's just give a little nod to the USL team. We kind of mentioned them earlier. Now, it seems that Vancouver's teams, they just go down to Seattle and win 3-0 these days.
It's basically the last 3 games they played against Seattle has been a 7-1 aggregate. So 2 wins and a draw. And it's just a domination. Today, they win 3-0 at Starfire. Marco Bustos with 2 gorgeous chips.
Which I haven't seen yet, but you told me they were great.
Yeah,
I love chips.
And then Andre Lewis scored, didn't flip over or anything like
The
that.
forgotten man almost, but
his goal, Blasco made a great run into the box, got it over to Lewis, and Lewis just hammered it home. And so basically an easy win. People were in Seattle were just walking out by the 75th minute or something.
Oh, were they? Oh, fantastic. Love to see that.
That's what the commentators were saying. So,
and I was down at Starfire last weekend watching the Kitchener-Waterloo club, KW United, win the PDL Championship and watching them put out Seattle Sounders under-23s on the Friday night in the semi-final with a 93rd minute free kick for the 1-0 win.
And a couple of residency alums too.
Yeah,
on that team.
Adam Palacevic. Probably murdered his name there, and Wesley Kane. Yeah, let's go with Palacevic, and Wesley Kane. So it was great to see them doing well. Always nice to see Seattle lose, and I got to see them lose twice in 2 days. But the USL team, and I've said this to Robbo when we had a kind of chat, that I feel the USL team are hindered when they send the MLS guys down. And by MLS guys, I'm not counting like McKendry and Bustos and Lewis, who have been there, but like when they send down the fringe guys and the squad guys just to get minutes, they've struggled. There's no chemistry. No. And you saw that on Wednesday night with the lack of chemistry. But when they're not there, Marco Bustos, Andre Lewis, Victor Blasco,
Caleb Clark.
No, actually not Caleb Clark, Billy Schuler. Those 4 guys link up fantastic. The understanding they've got and the understanding they've built has been tremendous. And the Whitecaps, 4-game road trip there in the middle of it in USL action. 2 wins now. They've got Portland next weekend and 1 more away trip before they round their season off with 3 home games. Making the playoffs, you can talk about whether this is about development or whatever. The club want to make the playoffs. Alan Koch wants to make the playoffs. The players want to make the playoffs. I want them to make the playoffs. And they're doing well. They're challenging for that 6th playoff spot, and they probably won't get any home playoff games in the run, but unless there's maybe a couple of 2-legged wins, which I'm not sure that there is. But they're doing really well. Keep an eye on them. Victor Blasco, he is maybe the only USL squad player that's pushing to get into the MLS just now.
Yeah.
And it's a pity that they can't play in the Canadian Championship because of the rules, they're just not allowed to play that. But it's good to see them.
No, and I agree with that. And I know you said Billy Schuler, but I think Caleb Clark is having a great year. He might not be doing something connecting right now, but he's scoring goals regularly, and I think.
Someone asked me how close he was to MLS minutes, and I don't think he's close at all.
I think he's had a better season than Schuler. I know Schuler maybe.
He's had a better season than Schuler goals wise, but Schuler links up better in helping create.
Recently,
in the last few weeks. Yeah, I mean Schuler's never going to make the jump again.
No.
But no, it's good. Keep an eye on the WFC2 team, and good luck to the guys when they play Portland next week. So I think that's about it for this episode of the podcast. Whitecaps got off to a quick start, and I was joking, I was surprised at that because it was the longest anthems I think we've ever had here. Yeah. It looked like they were going to fall asleep on the pitch. It was dreadful.
I think she was probably told to maybe make it longer because of the CFL game, maybe.
Yeah, if it
didn't work.
It's like, you've got 10 minutes, love. Go out there, knock him dead, make yourself a star.
Yeah.
That's my Bernard Manning impression for people who's no idea who Bernard Manning is.
Spot on right there.
Yeah, but they got the win despite that national anthem from Jade, and it was a gem of a performance.
It was.
Just before we go, Steve, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can, when I ever start tweeting again. I've been off Twitter for a long time, but you can find me at Whitecaps Beat on Twitter and writing for AFTN.
And I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our Whitecaps stuff for every Whitecaps team, and also some stuff about the local soccer scene and football elsewhere in Canada on aftn.ca, away from the numbers. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com, so watch out for all my stuff in that. So until next time, as always, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the free scoring Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes Yeah, but